Hello, I'm Sarah, otherwise known as Yarnmugs, and I thought I would create another sew-along video. I've not done one for quite a while. Last weekend, which was the bank holiday weekend, I sewed two dresses, one new pattern, and I loved it, so I thought I'm going to make that pattern again. So the pattern I'm going to be making is the Pansy dress by Rosary Apparel, and I made this kind of version with a longer length skirt. I've made one little adjustment, as in on the first pattern I made, the sleeve head was just a little bit beyond my shoulder, so I've cut my pattern piece to be a bit shorter there, so hopefully that will make a difference. The last dress I made as well, I didn't put any darts in at all, and I'm really happy with that. And I think I wanted to make the bodice a little bit longer, so I just added a little bit of extra, maybe a centimetre I think, when I cut the fabric out. So this is the pattern. It's a lovely pattern. Janelle from Rosary Apparel also does a sew along, so I was watching that while I made my dress, and it was really useful, even though the pattern instructions are good, but so nice to see someone making it at the same time. I've cut out fabric to make two dresses. I'm not sure if I'll get both dresses done today, but I just thought I'd show you the fabric. Now, this fabric I've had for a long time. I bought it from, I think it might have been Alexandra Palace in London at one of the stitching shows, or the knitting and stitching show in Islington. I can't remember, but it's the first time I'd seen Merchant and Mills at a show, and they had a bit of a bargain bucket of fabric, and so I purchased 3 meters because it's quite expensive. Merchant and Mills, beautiful fabric, but let me just open up the bodice. So I don't know what this is going to look like on video, but it is a stripe. It's a grey stripe, and it's thin. You can see through. I think this would probably be really lovely material for pyjamas, but I'm going to make a summer dress. Yeah, so again, I don't know what this fabric is going to look like on camera, but it's really lovely, very soft and floaty. So I've cut out all of my fabric for that pattern with that fabric, but I've also, let me get another one, I've also cut it out in another fabric, so I don't know which one I'm going to make first, and it's a really beautiful broderie on glaze, baby blue. Yeah, there's a little bit of a crinkle to the fabric as well. So I just need to go and check out my thread and see if I've got the thread to match. But yeah, I'm hoping to get maybe both these dresses made over the weekend. So this video might be in chunks. But yeah, I hope you enjoy. Right, I've put my hair up because it's starting to get warm already. That sun is coming over, so I really want to get some sewing in before it gets too hot. I'm just about to thread my bobbin, or wind my bobbin rather. Yeah, and I've got some nice thread that will go with the grey stripe fabric. Here we go. So my sewing machine is threaded up, but one thing I like to always do before I actually start working on the garment is to do a bit of a test on a bit of fabric. I'm going to just do a little row of sewing and also have a go on the overlocker as well, just to make sure everything looks okay. So here goes. So it's a nice match. You can't even see the stitching hardly, so that's lovely. So now I'm going to trim this off on the overlocker to check that all my tension is good. Use the noise. This is a bit of a noisy overlocker noise. yeah, I'm happy with that. All looks nice and neat, so I can go ahead with the proper sewing. The thing about sewing is there's so much preparation beforehand before you can kind of make that garment. And at the beginning of the process, that's what I like to do all the prep work. And that includes making my own bias binding. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. There's a nice little stretch to that. I've shown on previous videos how I do bias binding, but there's lots of tutorials online. But essentially, this material, I can't really tell which is the right and the wrong side. But normally what you would do is place right sides together at a 90-degree angle. Oh. Yeah, so right sides together like a 90-degree angle, and then you stitch the diagonal, and then you can trim off the excess. So I just do that all the way along, got quite a bit of fabric here to make the bias binding. I also put the gathering stitches on the sleeve head, the gathering stitches on the skirt top, and I also attach my pockets. So that to me makes me feel like, oh, everything is then ready to then start sewing. I also put stay stitching around the neck of the bodice as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So I'm about to sew the gathering stitches on the sleeve head. I have found that there is a right and a wrong side. It's very subtle, but one is a little bit lighter. And to do my gathering, I put my stitch length, the biggest it can be. For me, it's a number 4. And make sure my stitches is on a straight stitch. Now I've just got to make sure I've got little slits for where the gathers happen. I can't see that, so now I'm just going to go and get my pattern piece and make sure I've cut my little slits to show where the gathering stitches need to go. Fabric is so lovely, it's so light and drapey. Oh, it's going to be lovely as a cool summer dress. I'm just going to add my pockets, like pin them in place as well. Again, it is subtle, I'm just trying to work out what's the right, what's the wrong, and the right side is just that little bit darker. Now, sometimes on patterns it will say where to place the pocket. But I tend to just use little tools. I know that if I place my pocket the length of this pin lid, that seems to be the right place for me. So that's what I do. I just tend to put that in place, offer up the pocket piece and pin in place. I'm going to do that now. So I've pinned my pockets in place, and now I'm going to add gathering stitches to the top of my skirt, and then I will sew the pocket in place. Oh, it's nice to start a little bit of sewing, even if it's the preparation part. So I've done the stay stitching around the neck of the bodice. I have attached pockets to the skirt and gathering stitches, which I'm now just pulling in preparation. It's so easy gathering, it's lovely to do. You can either do 1 row of long length stitches or 2, and on this fine fabric I've just done 1. And when you grab the excess threads, you just grab one of the strings or threads and just start pulling, and it just kind of gathers, and I just kind of work my way along, just moving the gathering stitches, evening them out. It won't be a perfect match at the moment, but I'm just doing all that preparation for when I do join it to the bodice. I've still got to make that bias binding, but I thought I'd show you a bit more detail. So I just thought I would show you what I mean with making the bias binding. So I have put right sides together at a right angle and clipped it in place. In fact, I'm going to clip it on the corner, and then I'm going to, with a friction pen and a little ruler, I'm just going to mark a diagonal from that corner to that corner, and I'm going to do that all the way along, and that will just help with when I'm doing the sewing. So I'm just going to make some little dashes so I get that diagonal stitch right. Hope you can see that. So I've sewn all my little diagonals. You can see that with the 90-degree angle, and I'm now just going to trim this excess. You need to leave a little bit because you're going to splay that open and iron it. And I'll show you the little tool I've got to help make bias binding. So here is my bias binding sewn together and trimmed. So I'm now going to iron it flat and kind of open up these little bits of fabric. I'll show you that now. So this is the tool that I use to make my bias binding. Before I had this, I would just fold the outside edges into the centre to create so they're both kind of folded in. And sometimes I just do that and now initially to start it off, and then I feed this into that little tool. It can be a bit fiddly. I'm just going to start it off just that first little crease. Again, it's just folding the fabric into the centre. And then you just feed it through. It kind of, that makes the shape for you. I don't know if I'm showing it well enough. I'll show you again. So you can see here, if I pull it out again, I've kind of ironed the first bit, and then I'm going to just feed it through. It sometimes needs a bit of help at the other end. I'll just do that. You can see I've just pulled that first little bit through, and then what you do is you just start to iron and you pull this along, and it should create that lovely bias binding shape. Oh, sometimes it does that. It twists a bit. So that's what I mean sometimes with tools, they don't always work. So I kind of used my fingers to get the shape right, and it seems to have now righted itself. And I just keep kind of going back and forth just to get that crease. Sometimes the twisting happens at that point, you know, where you've joined. And like you say, you don't need this tool to make this. I didn't always used to use it. I used to just fold it in myself, just fold it in a, you know, you can see here, fold it into the centre, fold that into the centre. So I've Made my bias binding. I know it seems a bit fiddly, but I do really love making my own to match the fabric. And essentially this is what you're looking for to create these two creases, and that's what you'll be sewing along when you join it to the neckline. But yeah, it can be a bit fiddly and it's not always perfect, but it's fine when you sew it on. And you can buy your own if you'd prefer, but this is just a lovely way of using up your fabric and sometimes even creating contrast bias binding with the fabric you've got. But I love it when it matches. When I made this pattern last week, I absolutely loved this part of it, and this is where you're attaching your bias binding to like a little keyhole shape. So I'm just going to join it just around here, and it just makes such a lovely neat edge. And then after you've done that, you then create bias binding around the whole edge of the neckline, and it kind of just, oh, it just looks so professional. So I'm just going to clip everything in place to do that part. And what you tend to do is you have to put the right sides facing, so right sides together of bias binding and fabric, and you're putting the crease line, or you're pinning the crease line, if I just put it in place, to the edge. So I'm just going to clip it in place all the way around, and then when I sew, I'll be sewing into that first crease. So yeah, it's raw edges together, right sides together, pin it around the keyhole and sew into the first crease. So I've sewn down that first crease, and I'm now going to roll the remaining bias binding around to the back. You will have a bit showing. That's the point of this way of doing bias binding. So you'll have a bit on both edges, front and back. But it just gives such a lovely neat edge, and I do really like that contrast of the bias binding in that direction compared to the stripes going down. So I'm just going to roll this bias binding to create that kind of fold and crease, and pin that in place all the way around that keyhole. I just wanted to show, I don't pin, I use clips actually, and I just find clips are just a bit more stable. So I've done the fold, clipped in place, and now I can sew right along the edge, a bit like a top stitch I suppose, to get that in place. And any excess I can just trim off the edge, because I've made a lot more bias binding than I needed. So yeah, I'm going to just sew that now. I'm so happy with that. It just creates such a lovely, neat edge. And when you attach the binding to the neckline, all of this will be encased. So, oh, it's just so professional and yeah, really neat. Really happy with that. I've just joined the front bodice to the back bodice at the shoulder seams, sewn and overlocked. I love overlocking. I bought my overlocker a couple of years ago now from Lidl. They have an event, like a sewing event I think every year they do it, and I remember my sister saying the overlockers in Lidl, and it was worth every penny. It's been brilliant. But yeah, it's really just made my work look professional, yeah, nice and neat. So you can see now we've got the back and the front. And what I'm now going to do is attach the bias binding all the way around the neckline, leaving tails at the end, which will become the ties to tie the little keyhole up with. And what you tend to do is make sure the remaining bias binding you've got is the same length. So you've got the same length at each end, and you start from the centre of your front bodice and work your way round, and then that will leave you the tails at the end. So again, the same principle. I just have to turn out the bias binding, put raw edges together, right sides together, and then I'll be sewing along that first crease. So I've sewn that in place down that first crease, and now you can see from the front I'm going to do the same as the keyhole. I'm going to bend it in half to encase all of the bias binding together and create that edge, but I'm also going to be doing it with the ties. So what I tend to do is start down the bottom, get it back into that bias binding shape, bend the end, and then fold it so you've got a nice enclosed neat edge, and then I end up just sewing all the way down that tie. It's a lovely, lovely way of creating a really neat, I'll just show you it before I do it, but it encloses all of that keyhole, and then you've got a lovely tie as well. I love it. So I've got the top nearly there with a lovely bias binding and the lovely ties and the sweet little keyhole. So I'm just going to now attach the sleeves. This is a lovely way of making a dress. So you don't make the bodice complete and set in the sleeves. You attach the sleeves with it like this, with all open, and then you eventually sew the side of the bodice down with the skirt. So it will suddenly all come together. But I'm really, really happy with it. And this fabric is so nice. So I've now attached my gathered sleeves. So you have to gather them in so they measure the same size to the sleeve. It's not even a hole, it's just a piece of fabric. So yeah, so they're all in place. So I'm now going to sew around those edges, and that will be the sleeves in place. It all looks funny because it's all kind of open. Yeah, but it'll be lovely. Okay, all sewn in place. I'm just going to show you the right way round. Oh, lovely. So you can see a nice little gather on that sleeve head. And the same on the other side. So that is almost the bodice complete. Oh, it's going to be so pretty. I'm just going to refer back to Janelle's video to see what I need to do next, but I think I'm very close to sewing it all together. So I've just given my bodice a press. I'm so happy with it. You can see the sleeves will be gathered in with elastic, but look at the back, the lovely bow tie, lovely keyhole, all the nice neat bias binding. Yeah, really, really pleased. So now all I have to do is attach my skirt front, right sides together to the front of the bodice, and the same with the back. Nearly there. So I nearly have a dress. So I've now pinned it, clipped it all the way around from the underarm sleeves, matching up the waistband. Now because I didn't put darts in, I had a little bit excess fabric, and this has happened in my last dress, and so I just kind of pleated it here on both sides just to give me a little bit of a ruche there, but not anything too major. It doesn't notice on my other dress. Then you pin around the pockets and then all the way to the bottom. Yeah, it just feels like it's nearly there. When I've sewn it, I will try it on. It's lovely. Right, I'm just trying the dress on just to see what I think. Oh, it's very hot in the conservatory, so I've come in my living room. I'm really pleased with it. It's lovely around the neck. I'm glad I made the shoulders a little bit smaller. I think I've probably done my gathers a bit uneven. They seem to be around the back rather than kind of on the top. Not so much on that one, but in fact this is going to be tucked in with elastic and it will be all kind of poofy, so I'm hoping that will be okay. And again, because I didn't put any darts in, because it comes with waist darts and bust darts, I didn't, but just that little bit of a pleat there, that's, for me, that looks quite nice. And that is the thing, just to say, you don't always have to follow what the pattern says, you know, adjust it to what you need. This is meant to be loose and floaty, which is what I really wanted in this material for summer. I'm just going to turn around so you can see the back. I'm hoping you can see the keyhole with the tie. I'm just going to show you, it's very long. I had 3 meters of fabric for this dress, so it's kind of really is that, what's that term, midi? It is quite see-through as well, but again, this is for summer. I want it to be floaty. I will be wearing my Snag Chub Rub little cycling shorts, which I love, and that really allows me to still wear dresses and not worry about my legs rubbing. Got lovely pockets. You can see it's at the perfect height for me from that little measurement I was showing you earlier, and they're lovely big pockets. So all I need to do now is hem the bottom and make a channel for elastic and overlock those edges that I've just sewn. I started sewing or getting everything ready, as in once I started the video with you and got my sewing machine out, that was at 9:15. It's now getting on for 1:15, so 4 hours so far. This last little bit would not take me long at all. So yeah, maybe 4.5 hours to get this lovely dress made, and I'm going to be making loads of these. And I know that I can make adjustments. I could make bust darts here and it would make it a bit more fitted. I could even have less fabric in the skirt so it's not so big. And you can do different things with the sleeves. You might want lovely big flowy sleeves, but I'm really looking forward to puffy ones with a loose elastic. So I'm going to go ahead and make that. The other thing I was going to say to you is that this fabric has got a flaw in it, and I think that's why it was in the sale. So there are several bits with the white bit, and it kind of feels a bit of a knobble there. Typical that it's on the bodice. Why didn't I notice that before? Just need to iron this little bit, but yeah, you can see how lovely and floaty it is. Right, off to finish, back into that hot room. So I'm now ironing the dress. I've done all the overlocking, including I overlock the hem and overlock the sleeves before I fold them to hem them. But I'm just giving it a nice iron, and yeah, it feels lovely. Hope you've enjoyed watching me sew along. There've not really been too many mistakes today. I think there was one mistake which I didn't film, and that was mainly when I sewed the bias binding. I hadn't sewn it over enough. I think I'd sewn from the inside rather than on the outside. So I unpicked it all and then stitched in the ditch around the edge, so to make sure that it was nice and neat. That was all. Everything else has kind of gone to plan. I think because I made this dress last week, I kind of knew that it would fit the way I wanted it to fit. Yeah, and it's just sewn with this beautiful lightweight fabric. So yeah, really lovely. Right, I'll carry on ironing, and then I will show you the sleeve part. And since I've been making kind of elasticated sleeves, I've really been enjoying wearing them. It's such a pretty feminine look. So catch up later. So I'm now about to put my elastic in my sleeves. I've created a hem, but with a little opening, and I've got a bit of elastic which I've measured around my arm on a little safety pin. So what I tend to do is put it in the opening and just push it along, making sure you keep an eye on the tail of the elastic so it doesn't get lost inside. So you just pull it along until you reach the other side, just even out the elastic. And these are quite big sleeves, so it doesn't end up being a very tight elastic. Just get around the other side. And then pokes out the other end. So just pull it along, and then I'm going to join the two ends together with a zigzag stitch. And I learned a really good tip. It was from the Friday Pattern Company when I was making, I think it was a sagebrush top. She explains how to prevent the elastic getting sucked into the feed dogs. And what she suggests is placing I just rip this up a little bit and put a little slip of paper underneath when I'm doing the stitching, and then you just rip the paper off around it. It's a great tip. Well, I'm going to do that now. So I just thought I'd show you. Here's my zigzag stitch back and forth, and then I just rip the paper away. And it's just a great way of ensuring they don't get sucked into the feed dogs. Kind of then stretch it all out, and there's your little elasticated sleeve. Okay, so the dress is finished, it's all ironed, and I'm really, really happy with it. I'm still thinking that this is too big here. I think the sleeve should be up a bit higher, so I will adjust the bodice pattern piece, I think, next time, but it doesn't matter. The most thing I'm bothered about is that it stands out like a sore thumb, but I'm going to try and ignore. But no, loving the neckline with the matching bias binding. I'm loving the kind of loose fit of it. The sleeves are very sweet, just a little bit of elastic, but not tight. You know, I like it like that. I really love that look. And I think the sleeves are fine. I'm probably going to take a little video outside in the natural light so you can see it. But I'm really, really happy with it. Thanks for coming along with me. Let's go outside. So thank you everyone for coming along with me for this sew along for the Pansy dress. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's encouraging. I think the big thing about me and my dressmaking is I just want to make things that make me feel nice. They're not always perfect, but I can kind of work my way through it, sort out any mistakes, but essentially no one knows the mistakes, so try not to worry too much about perfection and just enjoy the process and enjoy the fact that you've made something for you that no one else has got. See you later.